Most parents are sold the same quiet lie. If you want a smarter child, you need more. More toys, more stimulation, more educational products, more activities, more input. And because that lie sounds responsible, smart parents fall for it the fastest. They do not want to miss the window. They do not want to feel passive. They do not want to look back years later and think they should have done more. So they buy more, organize more, research more, optimize more. But here is the mistake. In early childhood, more input does not automatically create more intelligence. Very often, it creates more noise, and noise is the enemy of development. So in this video, I want you to do something difficult. I want you to let go of the idea that intelligence is something you can purchase, accelerate, or force. Because what actually builds a strong brain looks much less impressive than what the parenting industry sells. It looks slow, simple, repetitive, human. And if you stay with me, you will understand a principle that changes everything. Your baby does not need more stimulation. Your baby needs better conditions. That is a completely different model. It means your job is not to flood the system. It is to strengthen the system. Not to entertain your baby non-stop, but to help their brain organize itself well. And once you understand that, the pressure changes. You stop asking, "What else can I buy?" You start asking, "What actually helps development compound?" That is the right question. Because in every serious field, the people who win long-term understand the difference between activity and leverage. A busy company is not always an effective company. A loud strategy is not always a strong one. And a child surrounded by products is not automatically learning better. The toy is often the headline. The relationship is the real asset. The product is the headline. Attention is the asset. The stimulation is the headline. Regulation is the asset. If you misunderstand that, you can invest enormous energy into the wrong things. Look at what babies actually do. You can place an expensive educational toy in front of them. Beautiful design, bright colors, thoughtful branding, a price tag high enough to make the parent feel serious. And then the baby ignores it and crawls toward the cardboard box, or the wooden spoon, or your face. Most parents read that moment the wrong way. They think the baby rejected learning. But the baby did not reject learning. The baby chose a better version of it. Because your baby's brain is not a machine waiting for more content. It is a living system trying to build reliable maps of the world. And reliable maps are built from meaningful experience, not constant stimulation. That is why simple things are often more powerful than expensive ones. A toy that lights up, sings, reacts, and performs can capture attention. But a simple object demands something deeper. A spoon does not entertain. A block does not flatter. A box does not tell the child what to do. The baby has to do the work. And that is exactly why it matters. Because effort is the currency of learning. When a baby reaches, misses, adjusts, and tries again, that is not just play. That is attention training, problem solving, prediction, motor planning. Frustration management. The body is teaching the brain. Every roll, every failed grasp, every awkward attempt to get somewhere across the floor is information. The brain loves information that comes from action. This is why unstructured floor time is so underrated. To adults, it can look like nothing is happening. To the baby, the lab is open. They are testing balance, distance, texture, gravity, effort, and cause and effect. They are learning what happens when something does not work the first time. That lesson matters much more than most parents realize. Because confidence is not built by praise alone. Confidence is built by evidence. Real confidence is not hearing "good job" all day. Real confidence is slowly concluding, "I can do hard things." That conclusion is built through experience. Try, miss, adjust, try again, succeed. That sequence builds more than skill. It builds identity. Now let's talk about attention, because this is where development becomes invisible. A child learns more from a few minutes of fully engaged human interaction than from a much longer period of passive stimulation. Why? Because attention teaches. When your baby looks at you and you respond, they begin to understand something foundational. My signals matter. I make a sound. Something happens. I smile. Someone smiles back. I reach. The world responds. This is one of the earliest forms of intelligence. Not performance, not memorization. Contingency. Action leads to outcome. That is why face-to-face interaction is so powerful. It is not just bonding, it is brain building. When your baby coos and you answer, you are teaching conversation. When they pause and you wait, you are teaching turn-taking. When they make a sound and you mirror it, you are teaching that communication has structure. These moments feel tiny. They are not tiny. They are the first deposits into language, attention, agency, and trust. And this is exactly why the parenting industry gets so much wrong. It trains adults to value visible stimulation over invisible compounding. But in the first years of life, compounding is everything. A few strong inputs, repeated consistently, outperform 100 weak inputs scattered everywhere. Quality beats quantity. That is as true in investing as it is in development. Now let's talk about language. Parents often worry they are not teaching enough, not reading enough, not talking enough, not using enough specialized tools. But babies do not learn language mainly from instruction. They learn it from immersion inside meaningful interaction. When you narrate ordinary life, you are doing something powerful. We're putting on your socks. That water is warm. You dropped the spoon. You're trying again. This kind of language works because it is attached to reality. The baby is not hearing random sound. They're hearing sound connected to action, emotion, and sequence. That is how language acquires meaning. And when language comes through conversation instead of passive background noise, it becomes much more useful. Because now the child is not just hearing words, they are participating in a pattern. That same principle applies to reading. Reading to babies can feel unproductive to adults who think only in immediate outcomes. The child cannot answer questions, cannot prove understanding, cannot show visible results. But that misses the point. Reading builds rhythm, pattern familiarity, shared attention, emotional association with language, and repetition matters. Adults get bored by repetition because adults are already competent. Children often grow through repetition because repetition is how competence is built. So reading the same book again and again is not wasted energy. It is exactly how structure gets installed. Now let's go deeper. One of the biggest mistakes modern parents make is confusing stimulation with development. Stimulation is not automatically bad, but uncalibrated stimulation creates noise. And when noise dominates, the child adapts. The threshold rises. They need more novelty to stay interested, more performance, more interruption, more reward. This is why constant entertainment can quietly weaken independent attention. The child learns to stay engaged only when something external is doing the work. That is not a moral problem. It is just adaptation. The brain adapts to what it experiences most. So if the repeated environment is fast, loud, and novelty-heavy, the child becomes organized around that environment. But if the repeated environment includes pauses, effort, repetition, and manageable frustration, very different capacities begin to form. Focus, patience, curiosity, self-directed engagement. These are long-term assets. And this is where boredom deserves a defense. Parents often panic when a child looks understimulated. They rush in with another toy, another sound, another activity. But boredom is not always deprivation. Sometimes it is the beginning of self-generated attention. Nothing is performing. Nothing is rescuing the moment. So the child has to begin. They notice. They explore. They invent. They organize their own interest. That is not empty time. That is the beginning of internal life. And internal life matters more than most adults remember. Because a child who can stay with quiet, simple reality is building something rare. The ability to generate attention instead of borrowing it. Now let's talk about emotion, because no learning system works well without regulation. A dysregulated child does not become smarter because the toy is educational. An overwhelmed nervous system does not integrate well. That means one of the highest return things a parent can offer is not more stimulation. It is co-regulation. Your calm voice, your slower pace, your ability to stay grounded when the child is frustrated, tired, or overloaded. That does not just soothe the moment, it teaches the path back from chaos, and over time, that path becomes internal. This is one of the deepest truths in parenting. Emotional regulation is not separate from intelligence. It is one of the conditions that makes intelligence usable. The same is true of trust. A child who feels safe explores more. A child who explores more learns more. Safety widens curiosity. Stress narrows it. So when parents ask how to raise a smart child, they often imagine acceleration, earlier reading, earlier speaking, earlier visible performance. But the deeper version of intelligence is not early display. It is organized capacity. A child who can focus. A child who can persist. A child who can recover from frustration. A child who can explore without needing constant entertainment. Those are stronger advantages than most early performances adults admire. And here is the hard part for parents. This kind of development does not look dramatic in the moment. It looks ordinary. A child on the floor. A pause before you intervene. A simple object instead of a flashy one. A repeated book. A quiet conversation during a routine moment. A struggle allowed to continue just long enough for something real to be learned. These moments do not look impressive. They do not sell well. They do not flatter adult impatience. But they build the systems everything else will later depend on. And before we finish, subscribe to the channel if this way of thinking is helping you see parenting more clearly. Not for vanity metrics, for signal. Because we make these videos for people who want depth, not noise. And share this video with one person you genuinely care about. Your partner, your brother, your sister, your closest friend. Someone with whom you want to build a healthier relationship with children. Not to correct them, to strengthen the environment around both of you. Now let's bring this home. Your baby does not need more toys, not more noise, not more educational theater, not more pressure disguised as optimization. What your baby needs is harder and more powerful. Your attention, your steadiness, your restraint, your trust in slow growth, your ability to recognize what compounds quietly instead of what performs loudly. Because that is how real advantage is built, not through frantic optimization, through wise allocation, not through constant stimulation, through meaningful engagement, not through replacing the child's work with products, through protecting the process by which the child becomes capable. That is the deeper shift. Parenting becomes less about doing more and more about interfering less. Less noise, less substitution, less panic, more presence, more patience, more trust. And once you see that clearly, the question changes. Stop asking, what else can I add? Start asking, what am I replacing when I add this? Am I replacing effort, connection, curiosity, exploration? Because if a product replaces the very experience through which the child becomes stronger, it may look useful while quietly becoming expensive. The goal of early childhood is not to raise a child who looks impressive as fast as possible. It is to build a human being with strong internal systems, a human being who can focus without constant novelty, who can tolerate frustration without collapsing, who can stay curious without needing the world to perform every second, who can act, adjust, and try again. That kind of strength is built slowly, and that is why so many parents miss it. It does not announce itself. It compounds. So trust the flow, trust the pause, trust the repetition, trust the ordinary moments that look too small to matter. They matter more than most of what is being sold to you. Because development does not need your constant performance. It needs your intelligent presence.